Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to. Hello, everyone. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our Student Directs webinar. Is studying in Canada still worth it? My name is Saurabh Malhotra, and I will be your host for this webinar today. So I think we I talk to a lot of international students, and one thing that they all want to talk about or hear from are international students who've experienced what Canada is like. In the last few months, there have been a lot of questions about is Canada still a good destination for international students to come to? What is Canada like? What are the real everyday experiences in Canada like? And we thought it's a great idea to bring to students who've studied in Canada and then have gone on to work in fields, different fields. And um, yeah, so that's what we're going to do today as well. So we're going to get started soon. And we're going to invite our panelists to introduce themselves in a couple of minutes. But what we thought we could do before that is, if you just give me a second, I will share a screen, and if you guys are able to, you can um, give us some answers of just some basic questions that we have for all of you, just to see where you are joining us from and everything. So give me a second while I share this. Perfect. I hope you're able to see this. No. Okay. Give me a sec. Alrighty, lovely. You should be able to see the screen. You can scan the QR code if you want, or go to www.menti.com, MENTI.com, and use the code which is on the screen, 2655029. So you can scan the QR code, that is easiest, or use your mobile phone to go to menti.com and use the code 2655029. So if you do this, it'll bring you to the screen. And once you're there, just press thumbs up there. Yeah. So you see, we have someone joining us already. Yeah. So I'll give it a few seconds for a few people to join us um, as well. Awesome. Awesome. We have more joining us. So just scan the QR code, or on your mobile phone or desktop, just write www.menti.com. On the top, you'll see MENTI.com and press the thumbs up. Okay. So that's what we just have a few basic questions that we want to ask. We want to understand where you're joining us from and things like that. So given it a few minutes, all right, let's see if people are able to see the next screen. Okay, so just put in, where are you joining us from today? Which country are you joining us from today? So you can put in, you can say country, you can say city, and just press submit. Yeah, okay, so we have people joining from Canada, we have people joining from Philippines, India, Ahmedabad, Canada again, Bhaktapur in Nepal, I believe. Wow, awesome. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That is really that is really good. Yeah. Yeah, you can also put it in the chat. I see a couple of our friends putting it in the chat. Joining from Nigeria. Lovely. Alrighty. So just I love asking this question. What is the weather today where you are? What is the weather today like? Here in London, Ontario, I will say it looks gloomy today. Would not a lot of sunshine today here. What is the weather like? Is it hot? Is it rainy? Just put that in the in the chat box. Okay, I still see people are answering the previous question. That's no problem. That's okay. Okay, question for everyone. What stage are you at in your study abroad journey? Are you just starting to explore options? Are you actively researching and comparing institutions? Are you preparing to apply? Are you already applied and awaiting decisions? Okay, wow. And you've accepted and preparing to move to Canada. Okay. So most of our friends that are here today are starting to explore options, which is perfect because and one has accepted and preparing to move. That's exciting, and someone is preparing to apply. So everyone is at different stages, but absolutely, I think hearing from students who've experienced it all is a fantastic way of starting your in your journey to Canada. What field of study are you interested in pursuing, right? There are different fields listed, so choose the field which is closest to what you want to study, and that'll give us a sense of what everyone is interested in. Yeah, we have mostly all of our friends here today in business and management. Um, we'll see how that goes. Okay, we have, oh, now, okay. We have social sciences and humanities, health and medical sciences, engineering and technology as well. Now, this is really important. What are your main concerns about studying abroad? You can select multiple. You can select whatever you feel like is relevant to you. So, yeah, okay. We're seeing people we're seeing financial costs, definitely, right? Like it's a big decision to come to Canada. It involves a lot of expenses, and you got to plan. Visa and immigration, of course. If you can't get a visa, all the dreams that you have might not succeed. So that's really important too. Finding accommodation, absolutely. You would have heard stories that it takes time or it is difficult to get accommodation. Um, Now, a lot of that is true. Absolutely, it takes a lot of time to find accommodations now, to find affordable accommodation as well, and uh, academic challenges. Right? It's interesting to see that no one said language barriers or making new friends. And that's really good because, of course, a lot of us speak English as our first or second language, and we're social. We like interacting with people, so making new friends is not really that big a challenge, which is fantastic. That's first step is already done. If you can interact and network with people, that is really good. Fantastic. So I'll stop sharing now. And what I'll do is I'll ask Peter and Krishna to come to the webinar, and we will introduce Peter and Krishna, both of them, and we will get started by asking them a bunch of questions. I'm just reading webinars. I'm just reading the chat from some people as well. Some people from Philippines, Nigeria. Someone says sunny. Ricky says already night here, so I'm inside. I don't care. Then we had someone from Philippines again and preparing to apply. Okay, all right. Just Peter and Krishna, if you can share your video, that will be fantastic. Awesome. Awesome. Peter and Krishna, good morning. I know both of you are based in Canada, so good morning. I hope you are doing well.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you for joining us, Peter.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's a beautiful morning today. And hello, everyone. Yeah.
Hi, Krishna. Good morning. All right. So we'll start with introductions. I will give you a very brief introduction, everyone, of Peter and Krishna, but I will really ask Peter and Krishna to talk briefly about their journey. I have a bunch of questions, which actually our students submitted while they were registering for the webinar. So it'll be interesting. And we're going to go and ask these questions from Peter and Krishna. First of all, Peter and Krishna are not students, they're professionals right now. So we want to thank them for taking out time from their schedule to talk to future applicants to Canada. We really want to thank you for taking time to talk to our future students. And I believe, Peter and Krishna, nothing motivates you like looking at success stories and their challenges and successes and all that. So I think looking at you, students, future applicants to Canada, I think we'll get really good pointers. So I'm excited about this.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Briefly, I'll say Krishna, I know, is a graduate from Algonquin College. She has started in the health and human services area, and she's a registered pharmacist right now in Canada. And she's lived in a couple of different cities in Ontario. So I think she has that experience too. And Peter is currently a shipping supervisor. I believe Peter has studied supply chain logistics area, came in with a lot of work experience already as well. And Peter also has lived in a couple of cities in Canada, so has a different point of view about a few, a few cities at least in Canada. So Peter, Krishna, welcome. Krishna, I'll start with you. If you can briefly describe your journey to Canada in the next couple of minutes, just to give everyone a high point, like highlights of your journey in Canada. When did you come in, from where, etc. And Peter, after Krishna, I'd request you to do the same.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Saurabh, first of all. So I am from Ahmedabad, India. I started my journey back in 2016, I would say, third year of my pharmacy graduation. So I did bachelor's of pharmacy back home. And there I decided that, okay, hey, I want to do, pharmacy. I want to get my pharmacy license in Canada. So that's how the journey started with, as you were saying, inspiration from someone. Someone inspired me, and that's how I started. So yeah, so back in then, and I landed in Canada in 2018 December, and thereafter, that's how I started my journey. So I did my bachelor's. That's it. That's what I did. I just did bachelor's of pharmacy. Came to Canada, and then I started, you know, exploring option before coming here. So I did a lot of research. So a lot of research before coming to Canada. That counts as well. And my agent, she helped me out with a lot of things. So after that, coming to Canada, I started working as a pharmacy assistant, volunteering rather, I would say, for 4 months. Then in the meantime, I was doing like studying at Algonquin College. I was studying regulatory affairs, and I also did project management at Algonquin College, Ottawa. Then like I was studying, and then I was working as a part-time cashier and volunteering as well, plus studying for my licensing exams. So that's a mix and match of everything, plus struggling with the lifestyle of Canada and how you survive here, basically, with the weather, especially. So Ottawa is a bit chillier than Toronto. So so that side. Yeah, and then I worked till then COVID hit, and then in the meantime I was completing my licensing. So it took me 2 years, and then I finally received complete license in 2024. So it takes multiple years to get licensed, actually. But yeah, completing all the exam was done in 2023. So yeah, that's my whole journey. And now I'm working as a pharmacist in Canada.
Awesome, Krishna. Thank you so much for giving us that overview of your journey. Exciting journey. I'm really excited to ask you many questions. I know a lot of students are coming from health professionals. They would have questions about the registration process and things like that. I'm sure that'll happen, but we'll come to that in a little bit. Thank you, Krishna.
Sure.
Peter?
Hi. So my name is Peter Ibeano, as you might already know. I would start with my background. I was born in Nigeria. I am from Nigeria, and I moved to Canada as opposed to Krishna. I moved to Canada in 2022 in September, and I started schooling in January, but maybe I'll scratch back to my background. I have a bachelor's in agricultural economics. I started a business in logistics. I have a logistics business in Nigeria, and then it prompted me to get more information. And then I thought to myself, okay, how about, do a program and then get some international ideas. So I chose Canada, and I started my program in January of 2023. So one of the good things I had was that I came pretty early. I came about like 2 months ahead. So it gave me the chance to, get a lot of experience. So I've stayed in a couple places. I moved in, I stayed in Toronto, and then I schooled in London. And now I'm currently in Leamington, close to Windsor. So my experience spans across. I started my journey. It was an 8 months program. I did not do a co-op. If the chance permits, we might get to talk about that. And yeah, all of my experience, I worked in Pepsi for a bit as my part-time job, given the chance. But in my time, I was able to work 40 hours and school alongside. So when a lot of people say they don't, have the experience, they don't get to go to classes and all of that, you would, if you're coming now, you're going to only have the chance to work 20 hours, 24 hours from September. I was able to work 40 hours. I was in the board of directors at Fanshawe. I was a volunteer at Fanshawe. I did a couple of volunteer jobs, as well as did my studies and did really great in my studies. So like we all have the opportunity to do everything that we want to do if we are able to put our times together. So yeah, that's most of my experience, I would say.
That's awesome, Peter. I was just counting the number of things you were doing, and yeah, I ran out of fingers to count all the things that you were doing while you were studying. But I think that is a sign of a successful student. You are never doing one thing, and Krishna, you were sharing this as well. You're studying, you're adjusting to the culture and the climate. You're working part time. You're doing volunteering. Like there are like a gazillion things happening at the same time for international students. So I am so happy to see successful students here with us today. In my experience of the last 15 years, I've worked with thousands, tens of thousands of international students. And I think one of the biggest traits of success is that they, not that they always knew what they wanted, but they don't give up. Like the path is, and I think we discussed this, path is never a straight line. It's always a zigzag. There are ups and downs, right? So if anyone says to you, your journey to Canada or your success in Canada will be a fabulous success, I hope it is, but generally that's not the way it is. So there are a lot of ups and downs that accompany you in your journey. So my first question to you, Peter, let's start with you this time, is what would you consider your biggest success and biggest challenge that you faced in Canada? So you can say biggest success, biggest mistake maybe that you made in Canada. But let's start with those like two high level things, and then Krishna, I'll come to you with that.
Okay. I would say one of the major pitfalls I had was not having adequate information and not, seeking for adequate information. And I am glad, like over the span of time that I've been here, I was diligent to like actually look for that information. I I volunteered and did all of the things I did in school just so I can be the person that actually brings the information to the students. And that way I was well equipped with the information that was needed. But at the time, coming in, I didn't put too much thoughts to it. And I'm just trying to be honest, because a lot of us here might be in that same state. Like we've seen what it is to be in Canada. We've seen a couple reels on Instagram, watched a couple videos on YouTube, but have we really looked into, like our track? Like, what are we going to do? Okay, as soon as you come in, the program that you're doing, what are the opportunities in that program that you're doing? Does it need licensing? Are you working on that? There's a lot of things to look into. Are you, coming to Canada just for the educational purposes? Are you looking at it as a route to, get into PR? There's so many things to consider. You need to know what you want to do and then channel all your energy towards it. So I would say, yeah, one of the biggest pitfalls was I didn't look at all of that information, but in time, I was able to understand my route and then I followed it aggressively. Canada is huge. There's a lot of immigrants. There's a lot of people here. So like when they say, oh, there's hardly jobs. Well, there's hardly jobs. There are jobs. You know, are you putting yourself in the right spot? Are you learning the right skills for your job? So yeah, my greatest success in Canada, I would say, was trying to advocate for students because in my wish to advocate for students, I was able to learn a lot of things that students should know. And I believe every student should be equipped with that knowledge, that information. It is absolutely key for you to get as far as you need to get in this whole Canada journey. So make sure you put yourself in the forefront where you're trying to find information. Sometimes information gets to find you. Sometimes your friends tell you, but there's also misinformation. And the last thing you want is to get the wrong information and work with it. So do your research yourself. So yeah, my greatest success was having to look for that information by myself and, you know, not necessarily relying on agents or hearsay from a friend or from, you know, anywhere. You find information somewhere, find a source, look it up yourself. So yeah, that's been my greatest success. Everything I've achieved thus far is because I was able to look for that information that I needed that would help my success, and it's been able to get me this far.
That's awesome, Peter. And I think that's something I would just reiterate. There are a lot of people who will be helpful that you'll meet, your agents or friends or family. But what Peter is saying is research on your own too, right? Understand what your path will be like. You'll never be sure exactly. There'll definitely still be surprises when you get to Canada, but prepare yourself the most you can. So I think, Peter, that's really good advice. And thanks for sharing your biggest challenge and success. Krishna.
Yes, so coming to a biggest challenge, actually I'll come to the biggest success first. So I aimed of becoming a licensed pharmacist in Canada from day one, starting when I started my journey. So that is the biggest success I have achieved so far. There's more to go, but yeah, so far, yes. Biggest challenge. So when I was actually planning for Canada, I wasn't expecting that I will land up into a really good program called Regulatory Affairs. I also had a co-op in that program. I basically was really impressed by the quality of knowledge that Canadian Institute provides in terms of graduate students and other related programs. So yeah, my course did had a co-op, but I was so determined to do the other path so that so I missed the co-op of the regulatory affairs, which if I get a chance, I still want to do it because that's ultimately what I would love to do, like landing into an industry, doing a research work for the industry. So that's the challenging part that I had to choose from the course that I selected and the success that I got. So yeah, I would say that was the biggest challenge, to choose from one and the other, but otherwise it's okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Krishna. And yeah, registering as a pharmacist, I think that's a lot of people think it's insurmountable challenge, but you kind of show the students joining us today that it's not. Sure, as you said, it takes time and there is a path to it, but I think that's really important for everyone to hear as well. So you spoke about the program. One thing that I wanted to just touch upon, and Peter, you mentioned that you were a director at the Fanshawe Student Union. Just from that, I just want to explain to everyone for a minute what happens in most institutions is there are student unions, which are elected bodies of students. So Peter here was a student leader in that. So there are elections that happen and you can choose your student leaders, right? So that's what Peter was talking about. And it's amazing experience. You work with different people. You work with different people in the institution. You get Sometimes you have responsibility areas, like some people will handle communication, some people will handle promotion, some people will handle different things of the student union. But it gives you a really good background in student advocacy, students helping students, right? Basically, I think so. Just wanted to clarify that about Peter's experience. That's really speaks a lot about the initiative that Peter would have had in his student days. I want to talk for the next couple of minutes about academics, about your study during in the institution, because as we saw from our poll as well, that's the last thing students are thinking about. They're thinking about all other things, right? And which is important. All other things are very important. If you don't get a visa, how are you coming to Canada? But once you come to Canada, right? That is also people need to think about. And Peter, you were talking about what program are you in, what is the pathway, things like that. So I want to talk about generally about the education that you went through. I know Peter in Fanshawe College, Krishna in Algonquin College. Um, what were some surprises that you had, or some things that were different from the kind of education that you were used to as well, or any challenges? Again, so success, challenges, or good things, bad things, based on your experience, right, Krishna? Maybe we'll start with you.
Some surprises. Yeah, definitely. You do get surprises when you land into Canada. So first thing, carrying a laptop every day is not a usual task back in India. So that's one of the major things that you will experience. Plus, at the same time, I am a very old school person. I have a habit of writing everything. So I write my notes and stuff, and I study. But then here you have to understand that everything works with a laptop. So so how you have to get used to that thing. Other than that, you have to if depending on what part of the Canada you're living in, you have to learn how to survive with the weather, because you wear like 7, 8 layerings, and then you walk out of the door, and then you enter your college, and then remove everything, and then you sit down for your classes. So juggling with that. In terms of curriculum, I would say you will definitely enjoy what Canada offers as a means of curriculum, because the study, if you are genuinely interested and want to explore, they have a lot of knowledge to provide. And that's what I would advise students, because not many of them are actually into what course they want to go. So they sometimes land up in saying some other program not related to their field, or sometimes they land into their field but they end up into going for a lot of work, like part-time jobs, and then they lose their actual motive why they're here for. So that's one thing. That's the I would say surprising element, where you have to earn your own bread and butter, and then at the same time you have to manage your study as well. But it's a great journey. You will enjoy it, because it's something new, and if you're ready to learn, they are ready to provide the best possible knowledge they can.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you for sharing those insights. Peter, what do you think?
For my educational experience, I would say I found it a tad bit easier, and this is not to water down like the experience in Canada. Maybe a factor in it could be because I was already a more mature student at the time that I started, because I already had a background with a bachelor's and all of that. But being a student in Canada, especially in these colleges, one of the nicest things I found was a lot of our professors were in the field. Some of them are retirees, they already retired from the field. So these people are giving you firsthand information. There is nothing better than firsthand information. So we aren't necessarily learning like the theoretical, or how does 2 times 2 become 4? No, how does it apply in the industry, because 2 times 2 is 4? So those are the things that would help you to get the jobs, because if anything, you're going to do absolutely well. with the background that you have, whatever experience you have, you're going to be able to do excellently well, because over here, most of the things you might have to if you're able to do your assignments on time, submit on time, you're able to do your tests, you attend your lectures. That's something that a lot of students missed. As soon as they came here, they started focusing on the money. Yeah, you have to, be able to feed, you have to be able to pay your rent, but you should attend your lectures, because you get more than just an attendance in class, but you might get an answer to a question that you might potentially be asked in an interview. So all the time that I came to the lectures, I focused on the very important things. A lot of something else I also observed that they do here is we have a lot of presentations, thesis. You come in front of the class, you talk about a presentation or a project that you were given to do. We should try to be involved in all of those things, because that is that leadership experience. You have to be able to talk. Like in most of the industries that we're in now, I would say like in the business school, like you have to be out there trying to speak to people. So all of that experience you get from the class, talking to just your classmates, it seems easy. It helps you going forward to be able to talk to other people that you don't know, and then somehow you never know, you might find yourself having to talk to like 1,000 people, and you need some experience, some background from somewhere. So that was one of the very important things that we did in school. We were always having to present, and a lot of people were always trying to be at the back door. They don't want to talk in class. They don't want to be the ones to talk. Well, I'd rather be the one that types the project than be the one that presents. Hey, try to present, try to type it, do everything. You need to be, well versed. So yeah, that's what I would say the Canadian colleges have done. It makes you, well versed in your field, and that is very important. Getting the job and keeping the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Peter and Krishna. And I think I always like telling students that when you're in a classroom, don't treat it as a class. Treat it as this is a process of your job interview, because just being in class, and there has been research on this in Canada, attending classes is the biggest indicator of your success in the industry, because the classes are not theoretical. The classes are, well, some part would be theoretical, but the vast majority, the focus is on how to apply this in the industry. How does the industry today work? And the professors are industry professionals, as Peter was saying, and many of them are still connected with the industry. They're recommending students for like employment as well. So that is your job offer, and your professor is like your boss. Like that's how you should treat. And I teach in a couple of institutions as well, and that's what I tell all my students as well, that that's how you need to behave in a class when you're submitting an assignment. The job you'll do, if your boss asks you to do, that's the kind of job you need to do in your assignments, right? That's how, if you approach it that way, you'll have a lot of success, and much more success, and be prepared for the industry, because industry is not easy. There are challenges as well in that. So, but that's a really important point, Peter and Krishna, about the academics and how different they were. Laptop and technology, right? There is so much technology used in education in Canada, and a lot of us who've studied in different countries might not be used to that necessarily. Many of the things, like there are no drop boxes. Everything you submit is digital. So many things are really important for students to understand the differences. And so, thank you. I appreciate those points. Now, let's talk about employment a little bit. Okay. And again, when I say employment, actually, let's backtrack a little and let's talk about networking, because I feel like the number one thing that students have to do, we're talking about so many number one things, right? Like there's academics, there's networking, there'll be employment. So it is multitasking for international students for sure. But networking helps you understand the country, the industry, the people so much better. So in terms of networking, I want to ask, and let's start with Peter, what did you do for networking? There were so many things you were talking about in the introduction. what did you do for networking? Any pointers that you have for students in terms of how to network, how to know more people in Canada?
I would say it's very important. You just have to know people, you know. That's where you get information. Um, Sometimes you find it online, or sometimes you don't even know what to search for. But then when you do hear it from someone, then you know what you should actually be researching on. Networking is pretty much everything. When you apply for jobs online and all of that, you're better off getting a referral. How do you get a referral? You have to be networking. Um, One of the main things I did as soon as I got here, like I went for positions. I tried to, involve myself in, what the students were doing. And the student union is a good way to go because it's open. Nobody's saying no, you can't come. In my time, I started schooling in Fanshawe in January, and I campaigned in February, and I got over 1,000 votes in March. And in all of my stay there, I'm not even sure I know up to 1,000 people, but I was able to convince over 1,000 people. So that's just by networking. You know this person knows the next person, and then just like that, you're able to break grounds. So when you try to look for information, talk to people, just try to be friendly. A lot of people just trying to, stay indoors, stay within themselves, or there's no time. All I have to do is go to school and go to work. But that's really not the truth. I was able to work 40 hours in my time. I was schooling, I was going to all my classes, I was doing all of my assignments, I was still a volunteer, and I was doing my board of director work. So like my time was choked up, but like I knew this is what I had to do. It was only going to be for some time. Right now, I'm not even as busy, but back then I really was. And I knew like I had to be dedicated at that time so I could be free now. Now I know a lot of people. Now I'm trying to even know more people. And it's much easier when you're in school because there's a lot of people around you. When you start working, you find yourself starting to be alone. And all the people that you like to think you knew, well, at the end of the day, by the time your classmates are done, they're gonna, get jobs elsewhere. Like everybody would be everywhere. Like not a lot of people you would be able to physically see. You can only text or, reach online. So you have to be intentional about networking. That's actually the key word there. Like you need to be intentional. Like people aren't just randomly just going to start walking up to you, to talk to you, or you need to be intentional. Try to get yourself out there because that information that you need, that job that you need, that thing that you think you're looking for and you're trying to find on your own, you might just get it in one conversation with that one person, and you never know who that person is. So you have to be intentional about trying to interact, trying to network with people. It will get you as far as you need to get.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. Krishna?
I completely agree with Peter. Whatever he said is bang on. Like everything is correct. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, networking is really important, especially like in any field. Doesn't matter whatever you're studying, whatever you're doing. So he's absolutely right when he says that some people are very focused on, hey, we want to study, we don't want to waste our time, but that's not the case. Networking is not wasting your time. It actually opens the door for you to find opportunities, for you to find more knowledge. And at the same time, here in Canada, if you have networking, you can find a good accommodation, you can find good food, you can find good people. And it's really important to have a bunch of people around you, especially in this country. So that is that. In addition to that, like in talking about my field, my pharmacy field, where my licensing is not an easy process. Like I was not completely knowledgeable, I would say, in terms of what to do. Uh, in passing the exam. So networking, I used to talk to a lot of people, a lot. By a lot, I mean a lot. So during my college days as well, I used to talk to my professors, even though they're not my not my course. But then, if you get a chance, attend. There are meetings there. There are certain college. conducts certain kind of I'm not getting the word, but they actually conduct certain, now it's webinar, but there before it used to be certain volunteering jobs and certain social networking events that you can actually go to, which there are two benefits there. I'll be on the student side. You get good food there. Second, free food there. Third, you get to know a lot of people. So it's all plus 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 there. So might as well do it, right? So that's how I took it, and I got a lot of contacts that way. I would definitely recommend students doing and going for such events. And just small talks are important. Small talks are actually important. So even though you're riding on a bus, you can, if you get a chance, you can talk to a TTC driver. That also gives you some, you never know. You never know who is going to give you what. So yeah, networking is really important.
Such important advice, Krishna and Peter, that you're giving. And it's important that you're saying it's not about networking just professionally, it's about networking in every field. You said TTC driver. TTC is the Toronto Transit Commission. So they're like a bus driver, because they know, they've been in the country, they know so much, so many more things, right? A lot of people I know in their part-time positions, so they are working in a grocery store or a coffee chain or whatever. That is a great way to network as well, because you're meeting like hundreds of people every day, right? And you never know what connection clicks. It's equally important, as Peter said, to be intentional. Also understanding this is the industry I want to be in. Where can I go where I'll have opportunities to interact with people from this industry? I also like saying sports is a great way to network with people. Sports or any activities, for example, that you can be interested in. Because if you're talking to people who live in Canada, sports and weather, two things that a lot of
Yeah.
people talk about. So if you can shore up your knowledge about these things, go to a game, understand how these games work, because there are different games. Ice hockey is pretty popular, but soccer and many other sports which are global in nature are very popular too. But really good and practical advice. I think a lot of people say networking is good, but how do you network and why is it important is really good for people to understand. Okay, I want to talk about employment. So Peter can maybe talk about how did you get your first part-time role, first full-time job? How did you go about that process? For example, sometimes people are surprised how many places you have to apply to get that interview call, right? Things like that. So Peter, maybe we'll talk to you about that, and then Krishna, maybe we'll talk to you about your registration process, how cumbersome that process was. Not to demotivate anyone, just to give a reality check of, first giving a reality check and then telling them it's possible as well. So, Peter, we'll start with you and your employment experience and how you got there.
So yeah, I would start with because before I came here, one of the many things I saw on the internet is, oh, Canada does not have a lot of labor, and they're looking for a lot of people, not necessarily students, but people to work. And then you come to Canada, and the reality seems somewhat different. But just like I said in the last question that I was asked, is just be intentional. Like it's pretty much all you can do. In my experience, when I first came in, I didn't have a hard time finding a job in Toronto. Um, Currently now, I know people in Toronto and that came to school and they're finding it a tad bit hard, but there's so many ways to go about it. There's agencies besides, regular just applying online on LinkedIn or Indeed. That's also another reason why networking is important. Because if I wasn't talking to people, I wouldn't have known about, the internal agencies within the cities where you're in. And these agencies, like, you just call them up, you submit your resume, they're able to find a job that fits your resume. So you might not know all of the agencies around. You don't know the agencies to search for. Some of them, you look them up online, you might not find it. You need to be talking to people. Oh, you're working this job. How did you go about it? How were you able to get this job? So those part-time jobs are not the easiest to get, but if you're intentional enough, you're moving around. I came in the winter, it was tough to, walk around with your 7 layers, trying to go to the next Tim Hortons or the next McDonald's to, drop a resume. Yes, you do know you have more experience than working in Tim Hortons and the likes. But for starters, it's not a bad way to go. And one of the many things that Canadian employers look for is Canadian experience. So all you pretty much need to do is dip your feet. So once you put your feet in, you're already there. You already have a Canadian experience, and you can literally get any job from then on. Because once you get the Canadian experience, you're working on your Canadian education. Those two together, you can literally bag any job that you might be looking for. But when it comes to looking for that job in the role that you're working on, that's besides like the part-time job, like you're done with school, you're almost done with school. How are you looking for those jobs? You talk to your professors. That's why you have to be in your classes, because you're not gonna come after like they had like 12 classes in the whole semester. You really attended like 2, and you're like, hey, professor, what do you think? He doesn't think anything. She doesn't think anything. They're not gonna think anything. They need to know you. You need to have a rapport with them. You need to work on all of that. Yeah, some of these professors are nice enough to, they would add you up on LinkedIn. I still have, like, anytime I post anything on my LinkedIn, I still have my professors that still like respond to it. Like, they still connect with me because of the kind of rapport we had back then in school. These are the people that can help you get the jobs that you might be looking for. Those part-time jobs are important, but you need to look forward. What jobs are you trying to bag afterwards? That part-time job is very important because apart from the fact that it's going to pay your rent and all of that, it's dipping your feet into that Canadian experience. You're able to, deal with Canadians, because what we get in a lot of these schools, the reality is not a lot of Canadians in class. I had a class of like almost over 100 students, and we did like a connect thing where you're like, oh, talk to somebody from this country, that country, talk to somebody from Canada. There was just one person. In a whole class of like 100, they had just one Canadian. So that chance to actually speak to Canadians, you might not necessarily get it in school, but you will definitely get it at your job. So that's one of the beauties of that part-time job. You're going to be able to talk to Canadians directly. You see what it's like to, be in a work environment with Canadians. Some of the labor laws. Those very important things that would help you, because you might be looking to bag that actual job. You're not necessarily in Canada to serve pizza or anything. You want something solid. So you have to start from somewhere, and those part-time jobs would help you gain that knowledge, that experience, and that network to be able to eventually find your actual job. Just be intentional, apply aggressively, because there's a lot of students. That qualification you think you have, the next person has it, and the next person after that person has it, and they have experience even more than you do. So what would make you stand out? It was one of the many reasons I thought to myself, hey, everybody is going to graduate with this same supply chain that I have. I already have over 100 students here with me. We're going to be looking for the same jobs in the industry. There's so many other schools, those same people graduating with supply chain, some of them doing the 2 years program, some of them doing the 1 year program. How am I going to stand out and get a job over all of these people? I'm not in competition with them. I'm just trying to get my own job. So what do I have to do? That's why I went into one of the reasons I went into the position that I did, because I'm like, okay, if I'm in this position, it would show that I have a flair for leadership. I like leadership. I'm looking for roles where I want to be a coordinator, a supervisor, or a manager. Well, you have to be a leader. So how can I show my employer that, hey, I have this leadership experience besides my experience back home? I have leadership experience in Canada, as well as my experience in Canada. I went for the position. So those are the kind of strategic decisions that you need to make to help you get that full-time job where you would be deserving. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Peter. That's really helpful. I think that's very practical and relevant advice for everyone. And what you said about, getting employment difficult, I think the most difficult thing in Canada you do, hands down, is to get your first job, right? I think that'll be a really difficult thing you do. And uh, it doesn't get super easy right away, but it gets easier and easier. As you spend more time in Canada, you'd know more people, you'd have more qualification, have more experience, Canadian experience. And I always tell students, you're not looking for hundreds of jobs. You're looking for that one job, right, for you. So that's what you need to be focused on. And there is competition, definitely. There is also competition where we come from, right? So we need to be focused and intentional. Those are two words, Peter, I'll take from your advice today. Krishna, tell us about the registration process, the pitfalls, the challenges, the time it took, and anything that you can share with us about that.
Sure. So, first of all, I'm not sure how many pharmacists are we having today, but to all of them, I'll just say one thing: that never give up. It's not that tough how you think. It's just a journey that's long enough that you have to, have patience. Which honestly, I was not having to, but you have to learn to have patience when you are getting a license for licensed pharmacist. So. Talking about the process, first of all, you have to do, so it has 4 phases in it. You have to do document evaluations. You have to validate all the, like all your documents, all your degrees, all of the graduation documents that you have. One thing that Canada is not, I would say, not fair about is you have to surrender your license in whichever country you're practicing in. So I had to surrender my license in India. So I just completely canceled my license. So I was honestly not a registered pharmacist anywhere when I started Canadian licensing. So yes, so that's the document evaluation. It takes approximately right now 6 months to get it. Before, yeah, I forgot to mention, it's an expensive process. Rather than being tough, it's an expensive process to do. A lot of money goes into it, and you have to prepared ahead of time. So yeah, then there is like an evaluating exam, which is for all the international students. Um, so you have to give it regardless. That's an easy one, so you will be fine with that. But then there are two other exams, which is MCQ and OSCE. OSCE is basically like how vivas are taken, like how, one-on-one interview thing. And then there is law exam, and then there is internship. So after doing all these things, you finally land to a complete license pharmacist procedure. Talking about the journey, my journey, I wasn't like, we were unfortunately hit by COVID. So my journey was kind of long, and plus at the same time, I had really ups and downs. As you were saying, it's not a it's never a straight line. It's it's always a zigzag that you see. So yeah, it takes, if you pass all the exam in the first go, it takes about 1.5 year to 2 years to finish everything. But in my case, I was working like crazy hours as an assistant because of COVID, and we needed a lot of manpower at that time. So yeah, I was working like 12 hours, 13 hours. I wasn't studying at that time. So yeah, 12, 13 hours a day. That's how much we used to work. We used to do COVID testing and stuff like that. A lot of things in the pharmacy. So yeah, that's why my journey was a year longer than whatever it's expected to be. But everybody have their own, pace of doing exams. We don't know what journey you are going through. So it's fine, whatever time you take. It's just the process that you have to stick to. So it's just a step-by-step process that you have to, have patience while you're doing it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Krishna. So we have audience questions, one for Krishna, and then next one I'll ask to Peter. And after that, I'll have like a ending question, which will be a fun question, I hope. Again, we know we are on a budget of time, and I appreciate Saturday morning is generally a time to rest and relax for Peter and Krishna, but we've taken this time Saturday morning to share with our students. Krishna, the question for you is, if you surrender your license in your home country, is it possible to reactivate it? For example, let's say you decide maybe not to do the process in Canada, or maybe once you've completed the process in Canada, I assume it will not be allowed, or is it possible? Just a question around that for you from the
So
audience.
talking about surrendering your license, like if you surrender in, I'm not sure which country this question is coming from, but if you talk about India, you have to reapply for the registration process.
Mhm.
They're like, I'm not sure which university as well they're coming from, but depending on that, like my university, I have to submit all the documentation that I've go through, that I have, from my back home thing, that, and there's something called good standing certificate that is necessary, that shows that you're still practicing, but you are not in the country, but you have to be a citizen, or you have to be a citizen of that country. So by the time you finish your licensing, you might not be a citizen of that country. You might be a citizen of Canada. So if you are not a citizen of your home country, you cannot resurrender, like you cannot get your license back. You have to be a citizen.
Mhm. Okay. Thank
Mhm.
you, Krishna. That's really helpful. Um, Peter, the question to you is, what is it like balancing education and work? Is it advisable to start working immediately after you get to Canada?
Well, that's a good question. But the good reply would be, would you get a job immediately when you get to Canada? That's a big one. Like, as much as, yeah, you want to start working day one, are you going to get a job day one? So you have to work on it. I would not say it's unadvisable. It's not a bad idea. Anytime you can get a job, you take it. Like, if you're already applying and then you got that interview and you're able to get that job in maybe your first month. I started working day 3, so yeah,
Mhm.
if you get a job, take it. Do the job, but never lose
Yeah.
sight of, the actual reason that you're here, which is to, study and, hopefully eventually work in the industry where you're studying. So yeah, one of the very first things, if you're able to get a job, do it. I wouldn't say don't do it, but never ever lose sight of the actual reason that you're applying, the actual reason that you're studying, the actual reason that you're in Canada for. You should put that in sight. So everything you're doing should be working towards your eventual goal. It's all like a step-in-step process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important. I think as long as you have the final goal in sight, working part-time is not a bad idea. One Peter said, uh, it might take time for you to get it, but still, it's not a bad idea. It's just that your focus needs to be on education. And the part-time work hours, I think Peter had mentioned that during his time, there was a temporary policy of allowing 40 hours of work. That policy is now 20 hours of work. Starting September, that'll go up to 24 hours per week, which is, I think, a decent amount for sure. But yeah, you have to balance both and need to understand what your first priority is. Now, last question from me for both of you um, will be: so you came to Canada from different countries. Um, let's talk about some things that you never did back home that you do now all the time in Canada. You can talk about, I don't know, like for example, me cleaning up, like all the vacuuming and cleaning. I never did back home. I do that now. But you can talk about those things in life that you never did back home and you did now, but also like an activity that you didn't do back home, or a sport that you didn't play back home, or an activity that you no one does back home, but here you like doing, I don't know, hiking or anything else at all. So if there are anything for you to share on that, Krishna, we'll start with you.
Um, I'm sure everybody will laugh about it, but yeah, for me, it was cooking. My mom used to cook for me every
Mhm.
time because I was so busy studying. I learned cooking here myself, so so that's the one thing I am actually proud about. I don't get time to cook now, I'll be honest, but then whenever I get time to, I do meal prep, I prepare things. And as you said, cleaning, doing laundries and stuff, we're not used to these like everyday chores that we do. Running errands and other things are something, additional. We don't have the habit of, oh, there's a vendor outside, we always just go downstairs and bring something, whatever we need. But then here you have to go actually to a grocery store, bring everything, and then for that you require an hour or more, which is funny because you're just going to get milk. So so that is something, which I do every day, my day-to-day life. But it's something that brings, you discover something new about you when you come to Canada.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting for sure. Krishna, cooking is another one.
Yeah.
And I saw, Peter, you were laughing when
Oh
you were
my
smiling
goodness.
when Krishna was saying that. Yeah.
Yep, I totally agree because yeah, I never really got a chance to cook much back in my home country. It's one of the many things, and it's a good skill. I'm glad I can be able to cook now, and I'm not gonna have my wife, you know, bully me because she cooks better. Because now I stand a chance at competing, so to say. But yeah, but besides cooking, like one of the many things that I saw differently because like back in my home country, I used to drive. As soon as I came here, I was chasing buses. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Chasing buses in the winter, it's not fun. That's all I can say. I'm glad now I don't have to chase buses anymore. But yeah, I started chasing buses. And yeah, I guess, like I said, it's all the process. One new thing I've been doing, I started fishing in Canada. I
Oh, wow.
never fished before. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of lakes and water everywhere, so
Mhm.
you have to put it to good use. So yeah, I've been trying to fish of late, and yeah, in Canada, there's a lot of DIY, do it yourself. The other day, I was talking to one of my
Mhm.
colleagues. He was talking about, replacing his tiles in his house. I'm thinking to myself, how do you just randomly go replace your tile? Like, it's not something that I would ever think of. Like, why am I the one trying to replace tiles? Like, and it's just funny. There are a lot of people do like a lot of things themselves, and it's something that I still think about. Like, would I ever be able to do these things myself, or pay that ridiculous amount of money that all of them are avoiding? Or we'd see how it goes as time comes by. But yeah, there's a lot of DIY, and yeah, not used to that, but it is what it is.
Wow, that's awesome. So there are more questions that keep coming in for both of you, but I will stop with the questions now because there is no end to questions. And I think when students get authentic advice from students, I think there's nothing better than that for future students. People like me, institutions, all of them talk to students all the time, but students, I think that is the kind of advice students want. They want to hear from people who have real experiences, right? Who've achieved the success, seen the challenges, all that. So we're talking about bus system in the winter, yeah, and cooking for the first time. All those things are, I think, real experiences. So, Peter, Krishna, I just want to thank you again for taking time this morning. For students, we will absolutely have a follow-up email. This recording will be available to all of you as well. We'll give you contact details as well if there are any follow-up questions that you have as well. We provided a couple of links from people who had questions about immigration. So especially for immigration questions or work permit hours, things like specific questions, refer to the IRCC website. We tried providing a couple of links as well to students while you had this. This question um, was this question was this session was focused on experiences of of real students, right? Talking about experiences and things like that. It wasn't focused on the procedural aspect, but I'm sure students have questions, and we'll provide you contact details and things like that for for that as well. All the attendees, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a great time today. There'll be a survey that'll be coming to you um, for how did you like the session, any feedback you have. I will just say that we had a contest running for anyone who asked questions today, and we had a gift card for them, small senior. I think that's the title name I see. If you can, send us your email address, please. You are the randomly selected winner for the Q&A today, and we would like to send you your gift card. So please send us your email address privately to host and panelists, and we will contact you. Peter, Krishna, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. All the attendees, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day ahead.
All right, and you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You as well. Enjoy, guys.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.